Welcome back to Consider This. Melisa, Idris and Sharaad Kuttan here with you, and we are talking to Datuk Abdul Latif, who's the Director General of MPC, or the Malaysian Productivity Corporation, talking about how to make Malaysia a more business-friendly destination. So you were talking about the role of MPC in reforming existing regulation to make it business-friendly. I want to talk a little bit about that balance, right? Because rules and regulations are there for a reason, but you also need to make it easy for businesses to do operations here in Malaysia. How do you ensure that that balance is right?
Okay. I mentioned about the need to do consultation. When we say consultation, it's not just consultation between government and the private sector or the business community. Consultation also needs to be done with the other ministries and agencies. All as I mentioned, not doing anything is also one option. There were instances whereby, one ministry would like to introduce one regulation, but when they do consultation, they realize that there is already a provision somewhere in one law under purview of one ministry, which is sufficient. It's just probably simple tweaking. So that's why we need to have government agencies and ministry to really sit together, and at the same time also to do consultation with the business community. Now, when we do consultation, we look at various options. Right? When you consult, you must remember, especially business community, they have done their business elsewhere, not just within Malaysia. They have seen better practices in other countries. They will come back and say, hey, I just came back from this country, they just take probably just 3 days. But why are we taking 3 months? Sure. They will share. That's why you need to consult. So that when we have anything that we finalize and we want to put into place for implementation, everyone will own up, right? Everyone will own up because they have been consulted. They will, associate themselves with that particular regulation. So, consultation, we have to look from every aspect, not just environment, health and all that. You have to look at in terms of impact, the benefit, and then what would be the best option, taking into account also strategy to implement. Then whatever that you put forward, of course, if you go and present this thing, let's say, to Parliament, I mean, question will be, they're going to ask, have you consulted this? Have you take into account, this particular factor and all that? So I think a lot of things would be addressed fully, even before it goes to the higher level. So these are questions.
I want to follow up on Melissa's question, which has got to do with the need for regulation. Because perhaps left to its own devices, the free market and businessmen would probably like to flout environmental rules. They don't care about the externalities of their businesses. They will probably be, not thinking about worker welfare as much as, say, a trade union might be. So, in trying to in having a consultation, are groups like environmental groups, trade unions, are they all involved? Because it seems like this is a question of whose interest is going to kind of trump at the end of the day. Is it going to be the profit motive and the bottom line that is going to be the ultimate arbiter of what regulations stay or what regulations go?
Yeah. That is why in the previous years, when we develop any regulation, it is entirely up to one particular ministry to use whatever approach. But now we have got what we call the National Policy on Good Regulation. We have got clear guidelines. Even when we talk about consultation, we define what do we mean by sufficient consultation. When we say stakeholders, who are these stakeholders? We get it defined, And even to do the impact analysis, we have got guideline, all right, business cost calculator, which is used by many countries in OECD and all that. Now, the provisions are there. It is about applying. Now, yes, we still get feedback. There are some, you see, when the regulation is more or less finalized, when it's about to be implemented, there are some party would say, oh, they were still not consulted. So what we did was, March earlier this year, we have this Unified Online Public Consultation, in short, UPC. Anyone can have access. They can give comments. They can even say that we have heard about the regulation going to implement, but we are not in the know. We will pick up because MPC, we are the Secretariat Pemuda. We also have a department which we call Smart Regulation Department. We will go and approach this regulator to say that, is it true that you have this regulation to be introduced? Now, we have came up even with what we call our annual regulatory report on modernization of regulation, which comes out once every 2 years. Now, there is one particular chapter dedicated on annual regulatory plan of ministries and agencies. You must tell in advance what regulation you're going to introduce, what regulation you're going to amend, what regulation you are reviewing to abolish. You are going to make it, public, so that all stakeholders, including laymen, citizens, they are all aware, so that they can start giving feedback even before that regulation, is being put into public.
Is the response, robust, or would you consider this lukewarm? And I'm wondering because often, as Malaysians, myself included, we are often very reactive. So when something is announced, we are quick to react, but we're not as proactive when it comes to these public consultations. So is there also a communication element in this consultation?
You see, before the report is being finalized, what we do is that we will engage with all the ministries and agencies. And in each of these ministry agencies, they have got what we call regulatory coordinators. These RCs, in short, they are appointed by their CEOs. Okay, they sit in the management team. They are responsible. They will be the party that will have to look upon on anything which is regulatory
like a liaison.
They have to inform us because we are the oversight body for GRP, right? Now, at the same time, as I mentioned, you got the UPC there. Now, all this, even before we compile them, put it into a report, which will get launched, all right, at our GRP convention, we will get it presented also at Pemuda. And I had mentioned, Pemuda is basically public-private partnership kind of task force. You got the private sector there, you got the public sector. The private sector, they're going to vet to, and they will say whether the report is complete. They will tell you, there's one regulation which is not covered here. There's one regulation which does not follow the GRP process. We will take that into account. So that's why Pemuda to me is a strategic task force because it represents the business community. But even before it goes to the higher level, it needs to be presented at the National Development Planning Committee, one of the most important committee just before the cabinet. So you could see that there's a process. We do engagement with the business community, with the ministries and agencies. You get it presented, Pemuda, and then it goes to NDPC before it goes to Parliament or even to the Cabinet.
Okay.
So
at every level.
And then you have got the UPC there, Unified Public Consultation Portal. So no one should say that they don't have access. It's just whether you want to use the system, you want to be part of the whole process, or you don't.
Okay, there you go. You've made it easy for the public to kind of, or different stakeholders to kind of respond. Okay, let's continue this conversation in a couple of minutes right here on Consider This. Stay tuned to Astro AWANI.